Well, I'm not sure exactly what else there is left to be said tonight, but it's on the program, so I'm going to preach to you tonight, just for a few minutes here, and just glad to have you here with us to share on this Christmas Eve. And the title of my message tonight is called A Peaceful Christmas. Tonight, the theme, sort of the question is, what child is this? You know, what a great question. What child is this? I mean, what is special about this child? According to the world counts, there were 140 million babies born around the world last year. That's just 1 year that came about. And so what's so special as we come tonight? What's so special about this baby? A baby that was born not even last year, but 2,000 years ago. And our whole society sort of stops and celebrates. I mean, if there's anything that would be normal or that would be common, it's a baby being born. 140 million of them last year. I mean, while it's amazing on every level and every child is so precious, it does happen a lot. And yet here we are gathered in a room talking about a particular baby. And again, maybe if we were the only ones, that might be one thing, you know, a small group of people. But all over the world, people celebrate this day. And to this day, people still follow this man named Jesus, a man that was born in Bethlehem in a manger. And it's not a small group of people either. About 1/3 of the world's population right now say that they follow this Jesus. And so if we have around 7 billion people on the earth today, there are probably about 2.3, 2.4 billion people that would say that they are followers. And about 2.7 million people decide every year to follow Jesus. That means that today, you know, as you were getting ready to come to this service, as you were maybe finishing up your last minute's shopping, 7,400 people around the world decided to follow Jesus today. And this is on top of all of the people that have lived throughout history that also called themselves followers. I mean, really, as we sit here, what child is this? Well, first off, Scripture tells us that this baby is not just any baby. Scripture says that this baby is God's son. And so that pretty much sets him apart from all of the other billions of babies that have been born. However, tonight, I'd like to look a little closer at a particular aspect of who this child, God's son, is. Isaiah, we saw him writing over here. Isaiah, a prophet to the kingdom of Judah, about 750 years before Jesus would be born. He told the people of Israel about this baby, about Jesus, that there would be a child born. And he spoke about what child this would be. In Isaiah chapter 9, in verse 6, he says this. It's an incredibly popular verse, often read during this season. It says, For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Tomorrow, we'll dive into the verse a little bit more, but tonight I'd like to focus on this child, God's son, as the Prince of Peace. That this baby, Isaiah says, will be called the Prince of Peace. Why? Because he will bring peace. Who is this child? He's the one who will make and give peace. Now, there are a lot of things that we do at Christmas, I think, that are pictures of this first Christmas with baby Jesus. You know, we look at giving gifts. It's such a great image of God giving the ultimate gift, his son Jesus, to the world. We see Christmas lights twinkling all over the place, adorning trees and homes. And why lights? Is it because they look pretty? Partly, but the Bible calls Jesus the light of the world. And so all over the world, all of those Christmas lights are an image that point to the light of the world. However, peace at Christmas, well, that might be a bit of a stretch. I mean, we talk about that at Christmas, but it's rarely experienced over the Christmas season, isn't it? On the other hand, stress is experienced. I found some stats that I found really interesting. And now I'm not saying that this is true for all guys. This is just what the research pointed out. There was a newspaper in England that wrote an article, and the title was this: Men Find Shopping Stressful. When I heard that, I said, really? I never would have guessed. That's news to me. But this is what it said. It said, as it went on, it said, men, when faced with choosing gifts and dealing with crowded shops, find this very stressful. And so I would say, ladies, make sure to cut your man some slack this Christmas. And you might say to me in response, you might say, whatever, it can't be that bad for them, right? Well, there were some experiments that were done by a psychologist, Dr. David Lewis, who monitored blood pressure and heartbeat before, during, and after the shopping trip for men. They discovered that the peak stress levels of this time, before, during, and after Christmas shopping, were the equivalent to an emergency situation of fighter pilots, and as well, policemen going into dangerous situations. And even the thought, they said, of going Christmas shopping was enough to send blood pressures soaring. He said with over 70% of men having above average readings before even leaving home. Now, while we might find that, a bit amusing, and for some, maybe a bit of helpful information, it's not just the shopping that can rob us of our peace at Christmas. There are many things that we worry about. Money, debt becomes a big focus at Christmas because there's always so many people to buy for. And then you add in the struggle for many with this recent inflation. And well, let's just say peace is not the experience for many. It could be worry about a relationship. Maybe your kids, parents, in-laws. Maybe it's a health issue that can come and rob us of our peace. Or we look at the state of the world right now and it just makes us anxious thinking about it. Some of you here tonight, might be facing some major challenges in your life right now. I've seen some of you walk through these challenges throughout the year. One of the great privileges of a pastor is that you get invited into people's difficult situations to listen and pray and to offer comfort. And so I've seen many of you this year walk through challenges. And it's challenged me as you walk with a peace that transcends the situation that you're going through. And we know as followers of Jesus that peace in our own heart is not based on our circumstance. And my goodness, you look around at our world, there is a lot going on. Wars and sickness, shortages. And even if your life is good, in our world right now, there's just a lot of uncertainty that swirls about us day in and day out. And I've watched many of you this year navigate the challenges of life with a steadfastness and a calm that resides not in the situation that you find yourself in, but a peace that resides in your heart. Isaiah speaks about this coming Jesus, that he will be the Prince of Peace. The Hebrew word for peace is shalom. You've probably heard that. And shalom or peace doesn't just mean the absence of conflict. Sometimes we can think of peace as just the no more conflict existing. But the word shalom actually is more in line with the idea of complete. It's the idea of many pieces sort of coming together and working together in a complete way. A few weeks ago, I was telling you how I really like clocks. Well, that means that I also like watches because they're just small clocks that you put on your wrist. And specifically, I love the automatic watches, the ones that don't have a battery. They're a complex piece of craftsmanship. There's a picture that I'm going to show behind me of a watch right there. It looks pretty complex, doesn't it? It's an automatic watch. It's a chronograph, I think, and so it's even more complicated. Now, if we were to take some of the gears out of this, it would no longer be shalom. It would no longer be complete and working as it ought. And so for me to bring shalom to this watch, I would need to make it complete, to put the gears in properly, to set it. When it's complete and working properly and telling accurate time, then I have brought shalom. And so what we see in objects like a watch, we also know about ourselves. We can tell when things aren't quite right within us. They aren't quite right. Things are not as they should be, maybe emotionally. We might say that we're not at peace. We're not experiencing shalom. There's something out. And also, when there is brokenness between people, the relationship is not complete and working as it should. It's not in a state of shalom. Over the Christmas season, we often have great expectations of coming together as a family. You know, we picture maybe the nostalgic Norman Rockwell paintings. I think I threw a couple of those out. I don't know if you got those up there. There we go. Oh, yeah, there's beautiful Christmas dinner. That'll be like your Christmas dinner, right? Everyone just happy and great to be together. Or maybe we think of the families that we see on those Hallmark movies that we watch during this season. But our reality can be much different than those things. There can be a lot of conflict over the Christmas season. As we sit around the dinner table, maybe someone starts talking about politics and it sets someone off, and we can get into fights at Christmas. It's pretty common. Did you know? Now again, I got this stat from the UK, but I'm sure it's not that far off here. There are on average, well, we can pick on those in the UK because we're Canada and we're perfect, right? So on average in the UK, there are 5 family fights on Christmas Day, or as they say, rows. The first one starts at 10:30 a.m., I assume that's after everyone's gotten their gifts and the fighting starts. The second one is actually at 12:24 p.m. Then between 1 and 3. And then there's a couple others. 45% start fighting after the cooking of the turkey. But the biggest fight of the day, actually, where most people get into an argument, is actually over the remote control. Now, that was a few years ago, but nonetheless, to have shalom in that moment is not just for the fighting to stop and everyone to get on their phones. No one is talking, and so there is an absence of conflict, but that's not really shalom. To have shalom in the situation or peace in that situation, someone has to go and make things right, to ask for forgiveness, for the other person to forgive. Then you can experience shalom. Again, it's about those complex pieces now working together, functioning as they ought. And so Isaiah says that he will be the Prince of Shalom. This child that is coming, this baby, he will be the Prince of Peace, the Prince of Shalom. That part of who this child is to come and put things right again, to make this completeness. And so Jesus comes to the earth and he lives this perfect life, and then he dies on the cross for all of humanity, for you here today. What he has done on the cross is actually he has been a substitute for you, for me. Because between us and God, the relationship has been broken for a long time. It's not been in a place of shalom. Actually, it hasn't been in a place of shalom ever since the garden. And we have rejected him as king, and we have gone our own way. We broke that relationship. And as Jesus comes on the scene that first Christmas night, he came to restore the relationship between God and man. And the beautiful thing about this is that we were the ones in the wrong. We were the ones who rebelled against God. We were the ones who broke the relationship, and yet God gave Jesus to come and make it right, to bring shalom. So that all who would come through Jesus could be restored to a right relationship with God the Father. That what was once broken could be restored. And we could experience shalom. This is the first peace that Jesus brought. And he invites us to partake in that, to have peace with God. And maybe tonight you're here at a place where you don't have peace with God, but would like it. I want you to know that this is why Jesus came that first Christmas night. And so he desires that. He will not reject you. He welcomes you. Wherever you are at, you don't need to clean up or get your life together before you come. You can just come as you are. And once we see that and we see what Jesus did for us, we too then can become bringers of peace to the world that we live in. We are free to offer forgiveness to others, to bring shalom into our relationships here on earth. And so I'd ask you this Christmas, is there a relationship where you need to bring shalom? Or at least offer an opportunity to bring shalom if the other party wants it. I know that there is a lot of anxiety at Christmas, but Jesus is the bringer of peace. Tonight, even, would you let him speak peace into your life this evening? Would you receive his offer of peace with God? Would you extend that offer to others? Would you let what Jesus did for you on the cross by taking your sin to bring shalom to the relationship with you and God, and let that also be a payment for what has been done against you by others? So you would then be free to seek shalom with others. What child is this, we ask? He is the Prince of Shalom, the Prince of Peace. And may you today, may you this evening, tomorrow, over this season, experience the shalom of Jesus. Thank you.